Umpire Mag feed, and I can't wait to go across the pond to listen to Across the Pod, fresh out of Wales. Special stuff. Cheers.
Hello everyone, Andy here, and here's what you can look forward to in today's episode. In today's episode, I was joined by 49ers fans Oli and Paul Hope as we look ahead to the team's upcoming season. Oli is looking forward to players returning from injury.
The thing I'm most excited, I feel like getting Fred Warner, Nick Bosa and Micah Williams back. It's almost going to be a new defense.
Paul does not want one player going out to Australia.
I'd like to see him sit out week one. I don't want to see him going all the way up to Australia.
And much more as Oli and Paul predict the team's end of season record in our win, loss or tie segment. Hope you all enjoy.
And as I've said before, I just want one. Just let me have one and I'll be happy.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the Across the Pod NFL podcast. I am as ever your host today, Andy Davis, and we are here for our next team season preview. And as you can see from the title of the episode, the team we are focusing on today is the San Francisco 49ers. Now with me, I have two returning guests. Both came on for last year's season preview. Our first guest returning to the show is third and longs Oli Hope. Oli, it's good to have you back on. How are you?
I'm good, thank you, Andy. How are you?
Yeah, very warm at the moment. It's absolutely roasting at the moment. I'm sure for yourselves as well. I'm absolutely roasting. But yeah, apart from that, all is good. And yeah, looking forward to talking all things Niners with you.
Yeah, well, I always enjoy coming on this show, and yeah, I'm looking forward to the season, buzzing for it to get started. It's still about a month and a half away at time of recording, but yeah, hopefully it will come around soon enough.
Yeah, the off season really does fly by. I always think when it starts, when you have that, I've mentioned this loads on the show before, but when you have that kind of the 2 weeks of the Super Bowl preview, listening to all the podcasts, watching the TV coverage, you kind of it feels like so busy, and you get all the hype for the game, and then when the game ends, as much as you've loved the game and enjoyed watching the Super Bowl, you're thinking, right, well now I've got 8 months without any NFL. So, but then before you know it, it's August. Before you know it, I think when that first preseason game hits, when the Hall of Fame game happens, I always find then you're like, right, it's business time. We're going. So yeah, that for me is always my sign that yeah, we've got it back, and a month later the NFL season starts.
Yeah, it comes around quickly.
Really does. Our other guest returning to the show today is also a returning Niners fan from last season. Back on the show, it's a 49er faithful UK's Paul Hope. Paul, good to have you on as well.
Thanks for having me back, Andy. 49 days out, Oli, the official 49ers website, tweeted that out, and I thought, Andy's done this on purpose. He's recording the San Francisco 49ers preview, and he's in cahoots with the team. But as I said off air, Andy, a bit rusty. For once, the 49ers have had a quiet off-season. We've had no quarterback controversy. We've had no contracts dragged out.
There's a little bit of controversy that I'm sure we'll move on to.
Nah, there's not in my books, Ollie. I know who you're talking about. I'm not going to mention his name.
It's a hope-heavy podcast in more than one way, because I feel like I've got a lot of hope for the season, and I'm sure you do too. So a lot of hope in this podcast.
Well, as Andy always asks, how am I feeling? I'm feeling pretty good, Andy. I'll get that one in early. So, like Ollie, yeah, there's a lot of hope. However, that said, I'm probably going to surprise you tonight, Andy, because I'm a little bit more humble. I'm not coming on as the brash Mr. Hope that the Niners are going to win the Super Bowl and start off as a favourite. I don't think the window's quite closed. I'm not quite that humble. However, as you might disagree, Ollie, our division is the hardest in football. The Seahawks and the Rams are, unfortunately, the standard bearers, if you believe those in Vegas. But it's not all doom and gloom.
I think the window's ajar rather than open.
It's not closed. That's the important thing, Ollie. It's not closed.
Absolutely. I mean, we've already had the Rams and the Seahawks already for our season previews this off season. So we're getting already 3 teams out of 4 already in that division. We're rushing. We're not rushing. We're powering through that division really quickly. We're moving on now to the ins and outs of the off season. So in the off season, the Niners retain the likes of Luke Gifford, John Weeks, who Ollie is obviously wearing his jersey right now. You've got Eddie Piñeiro's return, Garrett Wallow, Patrick Taylor, Jake Tongs. I'm not even going to try and pronounce the defensive end that you've re-signed as well. In the free agency, you signed the likes of Mike Evans, a long-time Buccaneers wide receiver, as well as Christian Kirk, Nate Hobbs, Robert Jones, Jack Jones from the Dolphins, Cam Sample, and also Ashton Davis and Sincere McCormick, whereas you did allow the likes of Bryce Huff, Trey Tomlinson, Jamar Jefferson, Milo Eifler, and Jordan Mims to all depart via free agency. And in the draft, you waited until the 33rd overall pick to take your first player off the draft, when you took Ole Miss wide receiver DeJean Stribling, as well as taking Romello Height and Kalon Black in the 3rd round, Grayson Holton, Carter Willis, and Ephesians Brysock in the 4th round, Jaden Duggar and Enrique Cruz Jr. in the 5th, and in the 6th and 7th, you made no picks. Now, boys, I want to get your thoughts on the off-season. In alphabetical order, we'll go to you first, Ollie. Your thoughts on the team's off-season?
Well, I think we lost a lot of players with the likes of Bryce Huff retiring, Juwan Jennings, and people like that. But I'm excited about the Mike Evans and Christian Kirk signings because I think we were very light at wide receiver. I like the fact that we traded for Osa Odigizua because our pass rush last year was woeful. But with obviously Raheem Morris coming in as the new defensive coordinator, I think our defense could be back, not necessarily to 2019 standards, but I think our defense is going to be a lot better than last season. And on the offensive side, I mentioned Williams, I mentioned Evans and Kirk, and obviously Stribling too. We don't know whether George Kittle is going to be ready for week 1 or not, but we did cope last season without George Kittle, but obviously they are massive shoes to fill. But I am feeling pretty hopeful going into this season, and I think apart from week 1, our first couple of weeks are quite nice up until about week 5. We've got a fairly nice schedule.
Paul, your thoughts on the off-season as well?
Yeah, I mean, similar to what Ollie was saying there, the strategy was clear from the front office. We were aggressive and clear. They fixed the interior pass rush, as Ollie mentioned there. If you watched the Niners last year, teams could run on us at will. So that definitely needed fixing. And as much as I was gutted before the draft to give up a 3rd round pick, it made sense. And the player that we've got, I've done a little bit of research after, and I thought, yeah, I'm quite happy we've picked him. You can plug him in. Mike Evans, arguably the biggest move of the spring. Again, I'm a Shanahan fan. If you look at the scheme that we operate, Andy, we've always excelled between the numbers. And when you watch Brock Purdy, he's got that anticipation. He takes a lot of risks. I know there's a lot of talk, Ollie, in the offseason that he had a lot of turnovers last year. But when you go back and watch the game tape without the emotion, there was a couple of tipped passes. There was a couple of balls that, with someone like Mike Evans, Andy, and yes, he's at the tail end of his career, but I still think it was a great signing for us, especially in the red zone. I mean, George is smashing his rehab. Obviously, I'm keeping a keen eye on that with my own injury history. I'd like to see him sit out week 1. I don't want to see him going all the way over to Australia. But Christian Kirk was a surprising pickup, proven slot speed. And Stribling in the 2nd round was a bit of a shock. The Niners fans going into the draft, if you watch the content creators out there, I don't think we had him as the first pick, and the fact that we drafted out and we added some pieces. So I was quietly confident. I mean, seeing Juwan Jennings go was a bit of a gamble, but I just think he wanted too much money. Kendrick Bourne going to the Cardinals. I hope that doesn't come back to bite us. And you mentioned some of the, Huff retiring, some of the other pieces. It was kind of a settled off season for the Niners. I know Ollie alluded to a certain wide receiver, which I'm not wanting to talk about, if I'm being honest, because he's not important at the moment. The fact that we've got our key pieces, Christy McCaffrey came off a decent season. I think Brock Purdy is quite clear. He's Shanahan's man. So yeah, I was quite happy, Andy. I mean, Myles Garrett going to the Rams. I'm not going to lie, that blew up my phone. As a Niners fan, you think, what are you doing in our division? And then seeing Aaron Donald at the training facility, you don't want those two chasing your quarterback, do you, Ollie? But that said, when Aaron Donald played last time for the Rams, we tended to do all right against them. So that's for the Rams fans listening, Andy. It throws me at the screen right now.
Garrett only got 1 sack against us last season, so
Yeah, he's still a hell of a player, though, Ollie. As much as I love the Niners, seeing him
he
come
is
into
a
your
hell of a
division,
player.
and you're like, Jesus Christ, we've already got the Super Bowl champions in our division. Then the Rams. That said, you look at what we did last year, Andy, and I said at the start, I'm being a bit humble. You know, the injuries, the fact that we've got players, you know, we're not getting younger. We're not a young team for people listening to this. But I don't think we're that far off as people would make out. I mean, as the Miami Dolphins fan in the room, what do you think? Because me and Ollie are sat here in July, like, yeah, of course we're going to win the Super Bowl. But what do you think is the neutral to what we did in the offseason?
Well, I think first of all, obviously we haven't addressed the elephant in the room, Brandon Ayuk, but I think he's basically departure. It's not actually been confirmed, but I just don't see a way he plays for.
I think he's departed from the league.
I mean, isn't he trying to he keeps trying to get moved to the Commanders, isn't he? He keeps wearing a Commander's hat. He keeps making videos saying he wants to join the Commanders.
I think what Jaden Daniels said on Instagram is probably the most apt things, which was happy retirement, bro.
Wow. Okay. No, because I saw him having made a video about Daniel saying this is my team now. So I don't know whether it's some sort of like friendly banter or whether there is some sort of beef between them two. But
No,
yeah.
I threw so I don't remember exactly what the post was, but he threw some beef at Jaden Daniels, and Daniels just replied with basically, "We don't want you. Have happy retirement."
As much as I love social media, Ollie, and maybe show my age, Andy, I try not to buy into that. I remember the whole Debo thing. Fans got really upset when Debo scrubbed us off his social media contract negotiations. Now, I'm not an expert on an NFL contract. That said, my understanding is all Ayuk has to do is report to the facility, and that causes us problems. Cast your mind back to when Jimmy G, we wanted to get rid of him a few years ago, and he turned up and he had to kind of train by the side because they didn't want to get him injured. I think when the Ayuk stuff started, we'd kind of hoped to kind of get something for him. But at this point, it's kind of a weird game between who's going to blink first. And I think if he does ever report, Andy, then our hand of force, because then he's reinstated to the roster. He counts against the salary cap. At the moment, as a Niners organisation, they don't need to do anything. He's exempt. Yeah. It doesn't count against the roster. It doesn't count against the salary cap. And he's not playing in the NFL. So I don't know who's advising Ayuk. That said, Ollie, I do hope he's okay. Mental health, being okay, and all that kind of side of things. It's a big push on what we do at the 49er Faithful UK. So I am seeing some things on socials that I don't like. And as a dad, I kind of just want to reach out and say, Brandon, what are you doing, son? Just give it a rest on social media. Someone take his phone off him.
Yes, Ayuk needs to stop talking on social media, but he's made it pretty clear on his Instagram that he is not going to report. So honestly, I think the 49ers are going to sit on their hands because we don't, as you said, if he doesn't report, we don't need to do anything.
But no, I mean, Shanahan and Lynch, to go back to what you were saying, Andy, I mean, they haven't played it safe this offseason. And instead of relying on the draft and some of last year's rookies, they've gone again. They've looked at some vulnerabilities. They've looked at the red zone target size, the interior push. And obviously a team that has players of the caliber that we have, you're going to be there or thereabouts. But at the moment, I don't know how Ollie's feeling. I'm not as brash as I was going into the 2023 season. I'm not quite Brad Simcox level yet, Andy, confidence. But, I don't quite think anybody is quite as confident as Brad. And as I've said before, I just want one. Just let me have one and I'll be happy. But, it's kind of that interesting part of the NFL offseason where we're all itching for training camp to start, OTAs. And as much as injuries, you don't like to see them. They do play a part. But I think maybe it's going to be an interesting start to the NFL season. In Australia, for mine and Ollie's teams,
there's going to be something that not many players can say they've done in the NFL. We have only really, in history so far, the Eagles and Packers players who were there in 2024 can say this. and Chiefs and Chargers last year. There can be in rare company these Niners and Rams players, where some players, their first ever NFL regular season game in their careers is not going to be in America. So those players who make their rookies who make their debuts in week 1, they're going to play in their first game in the NFL, not in America. Which, if you look over the 60-year history, maybe even look back before the Super Bowl era began, not many players can say they've done that, played their first ever regular season game outside the US. But going back to your point about the off season, I think the main thing, I think Mike Evans is by far the biggest headline addition, and I think when you've got obviously someone who's you don't want him being the main guy getting the reps, but I think you got McCaffrey to hand the ball off to even throw the ball to. You've got George Kittle. You've got obviously Mike Evans. He's not going to be the straight up main guy like he was in the Buccaneers, and I think when you see someone like him he's going to probably have less reps, but I think that can make him way more effective. And like you said, Paul, in the red zone especially, I think that's where he will thrive the most. But I think as well, it kind of leads into my first point is, the Niners were one of the biggest injury hit teams last year, but they still made the playoffs and they still won a playoff game. Now you got Nick Bosa, you get Nick Bosa back fully healthy, Fred Warner, if Christian McCaffrey, if all your players stay healthy, Brock Purdy, Trent Williams, McCaffrey, George Kittle, Mike Evans, nowadays these players. Elite players, when they're healthy, these players are some of the best players in the league. So I think personally, whilst you are on a tough NFC West, I do believe that if all those players I just mentioned, if all of them stay healthy, there's nothing against you guys going all the way to the NFC Championship. I really believe that you've still got Shanahan, who has proved to be a great regular season coach, has proved to got a team twice to a Super Bowl. I do believe that it's a big if because of the substation and because of the recent history of injuries with the team. But if you keep everyone healthy, all those players I just mentioned, there is nothing stopping you getting in as a wildcard team or even winning the division if things go your way, but getting into the playoffs. And there's nothing. I think there's still a chance that you could be sitting there, potentially on the road in the NFC Championship.
I mean,
I was waiting for somebody to mention the substation.
I was going to say we're not a powerhouse of the NFL, but then that's a substation joke. However, Andy, you glossed over a playoff win. Come on, give us our props. An injury hit 49er team went into Philadelphia, the defending champions, on the road, and there was an official 49ers watch party in Leeds, which we all know people are listening. So that night will stay long in the memory because me and my good friend Lee Gowland were trusted by the Niners to host the watch party at Leeds. And you forget the cameras are there. We were very aware of the curse and we hadn't won one since the NFC Championship game against the Lions. But all jokes aside, it was pretty epic to kind of share that moment with the fellow UK faithful. And I don't think any of us left that night thinking we were going to win the Super Bowl. I mean, obviously you're in the playoffs once you're in there and you get a victory. But I think we knew going against, the number 1 seed, Seattle, on the road, they were rested. And I was just smirking because you guys were talking about the World Cup off air. And I think the Super Bowl and the World Cup final were quite comparable. If there was kind of novices, the Super Bowl wasn't a great game to watch. The World Cup wasn't a great game to watch. But we also can say, Andy, that on the news of watch parties, the 49ers have actually listened to the 49er Faithful UK. And we do have already, Ollie, the official watch party. London against the Atlanta Falcons. So any UK faithful that's watching, if you've never been to a watch party, yes, it is a cheeky plug. Do hit us up on socials. And Ollie, will you be joining us in London? I don't think you've made a watch party yet, buddy.
I'm trying to see if I can make things happen because it's just after the 2 London games I've been to. So I'll have been down to London 2 weeks in a row. So I'm seeing what I can do, but I'm going to do my best to be there.
Andy's not there because, he's jet setting off to Paris. We will meet one day, Andy. It's on the cards. However, I can't blame you for covering the game.
I've only met Andy the once at a TGI Fridays at Leicester Square.
Yeah, that was a good night. That was I can't think what I had to eat now, but I remember that was that was a good night. That was a good night. My first time meeting you. I think I've already met you from third and long. You're the only member of the podcast I've met. So yeah.
But no, you're right in what you're saying. When all jokes aside, we're not the juggernaut of the NFC, but we don't need to be. You know, if we stay top 10 in injury avoidance this year with the roster we've got, with the experience with Shanahan, come December, that's when we're dangerous. We showed that last year. I mean, Salah going to the Titans. I'm pleased for Salah getting his second shot. I was a little bit surprised, Andy, that he was going back to the AFC because it didn't work out as well for him at the Jets. I think a few Niners fans were a bit frustrated with the choice of Morris to kind of take over. I'm just kind of hoping Shanahan lets Morris have as much freedom as Salah did last year. It was quite refreshing as Niners fans to see Shanahan focus on the offense. Salah, who's been a head coach in NFL, run the defense. And Morris does bring that experience. He's been a head coach. We saw what he did when he was the defensive coordinator at the Rams. And I think some of the pieces we've picked up in the draft. And be interested to see what scheme we're operating. Because I think Fred Warner's quite important. And the fact that he's fully healthy, I think you're going to see a hungry Fred Warner go all out to win that defensive player of the year. And I think Morris is going to kind of lean on Warner. So again, that's not a surprise if you watch the NFL, you know, watching 54 fly all over the field. But yeah, there's a lot to be excited for, Andy, if you're a Niners fan.
I think Morris will get that freedom because he's got the experience having worked with Shanahan before. Not obviously not when Shanahan was a head coach, but having worked with Shanahan, I think Shanahan does truly trust him. So we'll give him that freedom to almost open up the defensive playbook.
Yeah, it's just obviously when Shanahan didn't really trust the guy. I can't forget his name now, but he wouldn't sit upstairs and Shanahan
Nick
got
Sorensen.
cross with him. Yeah, I mean, Sorensen was the kind of internal kind of promotion that we all kind of cringed at, and he was a bit of a yes man. But I think Morris is in the trusted kind of Shanahan tree, and the fact that Dre Greenlaw's come back again, Andy, coming off that Achilles tendon injury in Denver, he wasn't quite the Dre Greenlaw, but he's hungry. He's on a kind of prove it now deal, and you know, having Fred Warner beside him, and as I said at the top of the show, that third round pick to Dallas for Usa. Can't pronounce his surname yet, Ollie. I'll have to practice on that. I just think that the interior pass rush was a big weakness for us last year. And we always say, if you win your division, it sets you up. And you've got to look at the two. Yeah, there's no surprise you've done the Seahawks, you've done the Rams, and then you're doing the Niners. Because to me, they are the top three teams in the NFL at the moment. And I think we've got to, if we can compete against Seattle, compete against the Rams, and as Ollie said at the top of the show, the schedule isn't as easy as it was last year, but it has been kind to us in some respects. I mean, that week one game in Australia is a bit of a killer, but at least it's week one. At least you're going to kind of, you know, get it over and done with. It's the fact that we've got 2 international games, Andy, and not in London.
I mean, yeah, like, I've heard you on your show talk about you aren't happy with that fact at all, the fact you're playing 2 games internationally. I mean, has your opinion changed at all since you voiced your opinions on that, or are you still of the opinion that they should make the Rams play twice abroad? Or yeah, how's your thoughts changed over time over the 2 international games?
So I was quite vocal that I didn't like the fact that we were traveling 45,000 miles this year, and to be honest, I still don't like it because I mean it's like the 3rd most ever. We're the only team that ever, I think, played 2 international games that are back-to-back weeks in the same area. We've got 3 big trips over to the other side of the country. And we're like, why aren't we playing the Rams twice? Why aren't we playing the Rams in Mexico? Why aren't we playing the Seahawks in Mexico? If we have to go to Mexico twice, make another team go to another country, because I just feel like we get injured a lot, we know that, and travel just makes injury more likely.
I mean, to counteract your argument there, Ollie, we're playing away in Australia, and we've got 3 home games. Then we've got a road game in Seattle, at least it's not too far away. Then obviously we've got the Commanders at home. Then we travel out to the East Coast, you said, the Falcons. Then we have a bye week. Now, as much as I'm gutted the Niners aren't coming to London, as a Niners fan, I'm quite delighted that the second international game is only Mexico. Shanahan has been very vocal, as you have just there, about the travel. And I think we didn't have a choice. Shanahan's comments after the Australia game, for me, when they were doing the coaches meeting during the owners kind of get together, and Shanahan was he was absolutely fuming. You could tell he was fuming. And that's where I think it came, Andy, where he's like, well, hang on a minute. Why don't you make the Rams travel twice? But the Vikings in Mexico, it could have been worse. And when we went to Mexico as a road team a few years ago against the Cardinals, I think the team were quite up for that. So kind of the NFL is a global game now. And you can understand why they're sending the best team in the NFL to grow the game. And I know Andy's smirking because he's thinking small or...
Yeah. I think the Rams are playing in Australia, right?
Yeah, but I think the reason they keep sending us to Mexico is obviously because Fred Warner has that connection to Mexico. So...
Well, I think the fan base as well. I mean, to be fair, the 49er faithful UK like to think we're a bit of a, one of the bigger fan chapters. But you know Mexico. When we were the road team against the Cardinals, it was a home game. Yeah. I think you'll see the Niners playing Germany next year before you see the Niners come to London. As part of the strategy, they don't need to send the Niners to London. And obviously, when you look at the London games, I've been vocal about this before. I think the quality of the London games compared to the game that Australia's getting, the game that Brazil's getting, you can see why the NFL are doing it, but it is a little bit frustrating when they could send any team over and London sells out. But the travelling, being a West Coast team, Ollie, it's always bad for the Niners. But I just think maybe this year, I think the way the NFL have done it, they've tried to be kind. And I think moving forward, I think you're going to see teams travelling twice a year, because especially if they go to the 18 games a season, which is rumoured, it's part of the strategy, and it's all to do with the money, isn't it, really?
Well, that's why they haven't yet announced the date for the next Super Bowl. So the Super Bowl 62 in Atlanta, they haven't actually announced what date it is yet, whereas normally these dates of Super Bowls, they are announced years in advance. We know when it's going to be. But they're saying that's because they're going to try out an 18-game season, but they're not sure whether they are yet. So that's why they haven't yet announced the date. So very interesting to see whether that is why we've not had a date yet. Because it's only a year and a half away. No, 2.5 years away. So it's not that, no. How long away? February 28th. That is 2.5 years away. No, oh my God, my maths is
we're in 26, so Super Bowl 61 is going to be 2027. So Super Bowl 62 in a year and a half's time will be 2028.
Year and a half, okay. Because February 28th, I was thinking, how far away is that from now? Oh my God, my brain's hitting the fan.
I think it's very interesting they put Super Bowl 61 this year on Valentine's Day. I'm sure everyone's thanking the NFL for that.
Well, they're saying that the script is there. You'll see that Jordan Love make an appearance being Valentine's Day. That's what they're saying. Packers in the Super Bowl, Jordan Love on Valentine's Day. That is a script right there for everyone.
Or could be Jeremiah Love.
I mean that would be a miracle if the Cardinals make the Super Bowl and overcome that division as well. Oh my goodness, that would be the shock of the season. We've mentioned the schedule. We will do in a few minutes. We'll do our win-loss-tie segment. But before we do that, first of all, this episode is sponsored by FantasyGameDay.app. But our final talking point is about a player we've mentioned all the offensive weapons in the 49ers. We've mentioned George Kittle. We've mentioned McCaffrey, Mike Evans. But the one player we haven't mentioned is Ricky Pearsall. Now, he came into the league via the Florida Gators and came in with a lot of hype, but didn't have the best start to his career, where he unfortunately was involved in an incident in I think it was a shopping mall, where he got unfortunately shot, had a few weeks out. But he's heading into year 3 now, and as it stands, in 2 seasons, in 20 games, 13 of these as a starter, he's only rallied up 928 yards and 3 touchdowns. We're seeing receivers all the time have these breakout years. We saw JSN have it last year in your division, winning the Super Bowl in your stadium, sorry to say. We could see likes of Obadoo's breakout this year with not DK Metcalf, with DJ Moore no longer with the team. Do you think, Ollie, that this can finally be the season where Ricky Pearsall breaks out?
Well, for all first-round picks, the third year is the make or break year, because it's the year where at the end you need to make a decision about whether you're picking up the 5th-year option or not. And obviously, we mentioned he got shot. And obviously that won't just affect you physically, that will affect you mentally too. So, and obviously he had a lot of niggles last year. And last year, obviously, it was a weird year. We didn't really have many wide receivers available. So I think maybe with Mike Evans and McCaffrey and Kittle once he's back getting all the attention, we could see some Ricky Pearsall making some one-on-one contested catches. So I am quite positive going into the season, but Ricky Pearsall needs to stay healthy because, as you said, in 2 seasons he's only played 20 games. So I think if he gets, say, over 750 yards, 5 touchdowns, that would be a good season. And maybe we should pick up the fifth year option. But he needs to stay healthy to be able to get anywhere near those sort of numbers.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough one because on the one hand, whilst, I think players do often benefit from not being the main target of defensive schemes. On the other hand, he's got albeit a great, receiver room, a great set of weapons. It's hard to see whether he will get the snaps because it's not as if there's a lot of these players who will have the WR1 and if they're WR2 they'll break out or sometimes WR3. But in Pearsall's case, if you look behind McCaffrey, behind Evans, behind Kittle, he's going to be the fourth or maybe even fifth choice guy to throw to. That makes it, Paul, doesn't it, very hard for him to potentially break out. But then he could also go the other way, and he could have a great season and be that trusty option, maybe like a Jawan Jennings was in that Niners team that made the Super Bowl.
I mean, the reason the hype persists, especially from 49ers fans, and we love the stats. I think that's one thing when you're a UK-based fan, you can go onto Google and get all the stats. But if you look at his production last year, even in the limited snaps that he got, 528 yards off 36 catches, but he posted a robust 14.7 yards per reception. Now, equally, Andy, that's just a stat. And if any wide receiver in the NFL is going to get nearly 15 yards on every catch, they're going to be Jerry Rice kind of like tier standards. And I'm not trying to kind of just sugarcoat that, but he posted a 67.9 catch rate. Now, you've just alluded to there that, Mike Evans is going to be number one. Christian McCaffrey, I think you'll see him used a lot in the receiving game. I think Shanahan's alluded to not using McCaffrey as much. And I think maybe we see McCaffrey not being the workhorse in the backfield at running back. But I think you might see McCaffrey in the slot. You might see Mike Evans in the red zone. But you might see Ricky Pearsall as that down the field, that danger, that speed. I think we were all excited because Deebo Samuel, as much as we love 2021 Deebo, the wide back, he isn't a great route runner. Just go turn on the game tape. You can see that. And when we drafted Pearsall, he didn't have these injury concerns coming out of college. He was an older player coming out of college. We'd seen we've done our homework. And as Ollie said there, the freak injury his first year when, he was shot. The way he recovered from that last year was a bit frustrating because it was kind of like lingering muscle injuries, knee injuries. But as a route runner, Pearsall's fantastic. And I think there was a game against the Lions where you watch it where before he's even broke out of his route, he's turning to go to the sideline. Purdy's released the ball. Pearsall's catching it one-handed. And I think his versatility, his route running, and I think the fact that if you look at his average depth of target last year, it was 14 yards. Now, cast your mind back, Ollie, to when Jimmy G was under centre. One of Tracy's favourite quarterbacks, which I'm not quite sure why. Don't think it had anything to do with his on-the-field performance, Andy, and I'm smirking. But under Jimmy G, under centre, you weren't throwing that ball down deep. And I think under Purdy, the offense has evolved. And I think Purdy is stretching the field. And I think you do need that kind of deep threat. And maybe Kirk might be the man. As Ollie said, better than I can. It's the third year. This is the year now where kind of Ricky Pearsall's make or break. He's a first-round draft pick. They always get judged a lot harsher than other players, but he's got to do it this year. If he doesn't do it this year, then, as Ollie said, we're not picking up the third year. We're not picking up his kind of fifth-year option. And I think Mike Evans drawing that kind of safety help in the single coverage and the physical matchups. Because let's face it, you get in the red zone, who's your big body defender going to go up against? Going to go up against Mike Evans, and every defensive coordinator is thinking, right, the ball's either going to Kittle, it's going to McCaffrey, it's going to Evans. But that way, Pearsall might surprise you, especially in the red zone. So I'm hopeful. I think you'll see Pearsall playing in the 21 personnel sets, the 2 running backs, the 1 tight end. I think Kirk will be kind of your kick returner, slot receiving duties. And I think the Niners will give Pearsall every opportunity, Andy, to kind of prove he is what we think he is. He doesn't have a talent problem. He's got an availability problem. And in today's NFL, you can't miss the games you two lads have said he's missed over the years. But when he's on the field, a receiver averaging 14 yards a catch, converts first downs, and he doesn't need to be wide receiver number one in this offense to get himself paid. Does that make sense?
Availability is a talent, though.
If he plays 15 plus games, as Ollie said, opposite Mike Evans, he goes for 70 catches, 900 yards, and he gets between 5 to 10 touchdowns. The Niners get in the playoffs. He stays healthy. That, to me, looks like a good return, especially from what we've seen, the amount of games he's missed last 2 years. But again, I'll bounce back to you, Andy, as the resident AFC fan, the Miami Dolphins fan in the room. What's your take on Pearsall? Do you think he's just made of glass and we're wasting our time? Or do you think this could be the year that he does actually prove a lot around the league wrong?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I have my doubts. I don't know whether he's going to be the guy, because I think whilst on the one hand, the targeting of defensive schemes up against these elite players is going to help him maybe not get noticed as much and get free space, but at the same time, there's a lot of guys there to try and compete with. It's not like it's two guys ahead of him, third choice receiver. Oh, therefore, he can maybe get. I just don't know. I have my doubts. I worry about his injury history, and I do think, and also there's sometimes players who will have these amazing years on a contract year, and then they'll be rubbish for the next 2 or 3 years. So I have my doubts. I have my doubts whether he can. Certainly, as the guy you thought he'd be, he probably can still have a long career as a third choice receiver. But I just don't know whether he'll ever become that number one receiver. Certainly at a team like the Niners. Maybe you put him in a team like the Dolphins right now, to be fair. He probably would be a number two or number one. But I think certainly at the Niners, I don't know whether his future's there. I can see him getting a move to maybe a lesser franchise in terms of talent. And I think that could be where he shines. I just don't know whether he's going to ever succeed at the 49ers. But we'll move on now to our final segment, which is win, lose or tie. So for those of you that aren't aware of this section, each fan that comes on predicts their team's overall record by going through each game and answering with a win, loss or tie answer. Now, of course, in this case, for the first time this off-season, we've got two guests following the same team. So they will alternate from person to person until we get to week 18, and they've combined for an overall record prediction. Now, last season, you both came on separate recordings. The Niners went 12-5 in 2025. Do you by chance remember, guys, each of you, what your prediction was a year ago?
Didn't I predict 12-5?
You did not. You predicted, Ollie. You predicted 13-4. Whereas Paul, can you guess what you did?
17-0, probably, knowing me. No.
Slightly more optimistic, 14-3. So
Yeah.
you weren't far off. You weren't far off getting only in your case, Ollie, one different game correct, and in your case, Paul, 2 wins off. So yeah, not an awful prediction. We've not yet covered some of these predictions we're going to get later on in the episode. So you're obviously, those of you who are listening, you will find that out later in the off season who had some stinkers and who had some great answers. So week 1 is, we mentioned it before, it's the first ever NFL regular season game in Melbourne. Paul, for you, for the first time this episode, win, lose or tie?
So I've tied with this one when you text me earlier what we're doing. I'm going to put this one down as a loss. I just think the fact that with the travelling, I don't think Kittle will be playing. And I didn't want to come on the show tonight and just be like, win, because that's what I do every week on our podcast. So being the sensible head on me and to keep it short and sweet, I think the Niners lose this one on the road.
Okay, so then week 2, your first game in the States and your first game at home this season. You take on my team, the Miami Dolphins. Ollie, for the first time for you this episode, win, lose or tie?
Sorry, Andy, but I think we're going to win this one quite comfortably at home at Levi Stadiums with hopefully a healthy team. And the Dolphins, they've lost a lot of players this off-season. I'm not sure Malik. I like Malik Willis, but I'm not sure he's that good. There's just some holes in the Dolphins' offense that I think we'll be able to expose with our defense, and I think we'll win this one quite comfortably.
Well, that's been very generous saying you've got some holes. I think I've seen less holes than a cheese grater. Week 3, Lo, is back with you, Paul, as you host. Well, you got 3 home games in a row. You were right. Hosting the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah, I'm not often right, but I did my homework on that one. It's to do with the Australia road game. That's why they've given it this way, because normally the Niners like to play on the road because of the heat and the fact that Levi's isn't covered. But we're playing the Cardinals. Sorry, Cardinals fans, you are awful. So pretty simple. It's a win for the Niners. And Ollie, we're going to have a group chat with Andy for that week 2 game. Andy's going to be sick of all those Niners fans.
Yes.
I am turning on mute straight away when that game starts. Ollie, back with you for week 4 as you take on the Denver Broncos.
So, I think win. I'm not sure about the availability of Bo Nix. I've not actually really looked into that. But if it was away up in Mile High, I think we'd struggle. But I don't think the Broncos team is as good as their record showed last year. So I'm going to go win.
Well, week 5, you can tell I planned this. Paul, you are now in week 5 taking on your favourite team in the entire world on the road, the Seattle Seahawks.
I knew you'd link this in because of that segment I did for you. Yes, the Seattle Seahawks, a team that I love to hate. I mean, we did all right against them early on in the season last year, so I'm hoping our season ends like theirs did. But I'm going to go for a win on this one. I'm feeling very confident, feeling very hyped, and I just think the Niners are going to be well up for this one. So I'm going to put that one as a win.
So I guess you could say you're feeling pretty good about that game.
Pretty good. Yeah, pretty good.
Week 6, you are taking on, Ollie, the Washington Commanders at Levi Stadium.
So, the Commanders. Win. Jane Daniels is good, but he does. If you can keep Terry McLaurin quiet, then you're doing pretty well. So I'm going to say we win that one.
Didn't you mean Brandon Ayuk quiet? Keeping Brandon Ayuk quiet, Ollie.
It's that game. Oh my God!
I'm telling you, Brandon Ayuk is not going to play in this league again.
Sorry, Andy. I know we didn't want to go down that rabbit hole, but it was just too good an opportunity, especially after Ollie mentioned it earlier in the show. So.
But even with his worldwide tour he's having that season, even with that, he might not play. Do you want to hear a fun fact, guys? I've been realising this. I realised this before and I forgot to mention it earlier. Do you guys know that this season, in all your games, basically in all your games, you were only playing 2 games this season at a stadium that wasn't used in this summer's World Cup. Week 1, Australia, and then week 18 in State Farm Stadium. So between weeks 2 and 17, every stadium you're playing at was used in the World Cup. You've got, of course, your stadium, Levi Stadium, used in the World Cup. Mercedes-Benz Stadium, Atlanta Falcons, used in the World Cup. That Cowboy Stadium, AT&T, used in the World Cup. The Estadio Azteca was used in the World Cup, most famously for England against Mexico. MetLife Stadium was used in the final. SoFi was used. So yeah, and Arrowhead as well. So you guys literally, it's basically anyone who enjoyed the World Cup, would have seen all the stadiums used, and your season is basically a repeat of the World Cup.
So George Kittle will be happy because that means we'll be playing on grass fields. Because surely the NFL is just going to leave the grass field. I'm joking. I just mentioned that in for George. I know they're not. I just love the fact. I love the fact that George is going after them and keeps tweeting it out there, and he's like, "Please let us play on grass." So.
Well, I mentioned before the Falcons. You are taking them on in week 7. Oh no, are we done week 6 yet?
Yes, we have.
Oh, we have.
I thought you've designed this by, again, coming back to me. So yes, it is the official 49ers watch party in London. So that does add a different twist. That means it's a loss. So Ollie, no, we're not having none of that talk. It's a 5 o'clock game. It's in half term, so it's family friendly. I'm sick of all this talk of the curse and all the rest of it, Andy. The Niners are winning this one It's going to be great in London. Please join us. But yes, I think the Niners do win this one. And the 49ers media team actually get some footage of us all jumping around and it not at 3 o'clock in the morning in Leeds.
What you need to do is you need to do one in like Weymouth or Wigan, because you keep doing these ones with cities that start with an L. Let's have one that starts with a W.
I will just clarify, Ollie, that it is the 49ers that pick the
Yeah,
venue.
I know.
It is the 49ers. However, that said, they have listened to the fact that, Andy, I'm able to come on your show and say the news has been out for a few weeks. They've actually listened to the fact that people need to travel, book accommodation. As you said, Ollie, with the international games, and if you go to London to watch the international games, you do need to kind of plan in advance. But yes, the curse is over, Andy. That's your headline. That's your TikTok. We're going to win this one. I hope so anyway.
I love it. Well, week 8 is a bye week. So week 9, you are taking on the Las Vegas Raiders at Levi Stadium. Ollie, who wins this for you?
It's the Raiders. It's a win. The Raiders aren't exactly the strongest team, and whether it's Kirk Cousins or Fernando Mendoza under center, I just don't think they have the weapons enough to trouble us.
I just can't wait to hear the WWE music break and Tom Brady run out of the tunnel all in his uniform because he's had enough of Mendoza and he's kind of like, move over, I'm back. But no, I'm looking forward to this one, Ollie, the Raiders game. The Raiders coming into Levi's. It should be.
The Raiders is always a fun game with the Niners.
Well, week 10 is a game on the road to Dallas as you take on the Cowboys, Paul.
Yeah, we do like playing in Dallas. And the 49er Faithful UK will be in the house. Lee Gowland and about 15 to 20 of the Faithful are heading over for that one. So they would shoot me if I didn't say anything other than a win. And Chris Pollard, my friend who's a Cowboys fan, will be disagreeing right now. But the Niners are going to go into Dallas and we're going to win this one. And we're going to celebrate on the star like good old T.O.
A couple of weeks ago, actually, they were showing a repeat on NFL Network of the Niners Cowboys playoff game in 2021 with Obvious, where we won with the Dak Prescott huge quarterback draw with 14 seconds to go. So I enjoyed watching a repeat of that. That
play, my goodness. I still don't know how that was even drawn up in the playbook in the first place. Unbelievable. Week 11, though, is a game which you'll have many a keen eye on if you are a third and long listener. Also, if you're Mexican as well. In Mexico City, your Niners, Ollie, are taking on your Jack's Vikings.
Yeah. So, little aside, me and Jack actually did venture out to San Francisco in 2021 to watch a 49ers versus Vikings game, which was an experience. And luckily the Niners came out winners, just like I think they will at the Stadium Azteca. We won last time we were there. I think we'll win this time we're there. With whether JJ McCarthy or Kyler Murray's playing, we've beaten them, but we've not beaten JJ McCarthy, but 9 has not impressed me yet, and we've beaten Kyler loads of times. So yeah, I think we win.
This is always a good game for us, Andy. Just quickly, it's the Gowland Bowl. So Lee Gowland, our president, a Niners fan. His brother is a Vikings fan. So Steve has joined us at events. So whenever we play the Vikings, it is nicknamed on our show the Gowland Bowl. So I'm hoping Lee is celebrating Ollie and not Steve.
Telling you what, Kyler Murray, comeback player of the year candidate for me. I think he's going to ball out with that receiver room. Week 12, it is back with you, Paul. This bit wasn't planned. You're taking on the Seahawks again in Levi Stadium this time.
So being all sensible, I always think in division, it's very rare that you sweep the division unless you're the Niners, which we did a few years ago. I'll get that dig in. But because I went for a Seahawks win earlier on, I think they win this one. So I'm putting this one down as a loss because I think we tie this one apiece. And it's weird. We tend to win up there and they tend to win in Levi. So that's my reckoning behind my thought process.
Okay, well, week 13, you could say, it's up to you, New York. You're taking on the Giants at MetLife.
Well, Frank, I think we win this one. I mean, MetLife kind of has the history of wrecking our defensive ends, ACLs. Because the last 2 times we played there, one of our defensive ends has torn his ACL. But I digress. I say we beat the Giants because they're the Giants. And as much as I like Jack Stark and Cam Scatterbo, I just don't think they have the roster to compete. And we win.
I have no idea why I just sang there. It just hit me a few minutes ago. Why did I sing Frank Sinatra? I have no idea. Week 14 is your second encounter this season with the Rams, but this time at Levi Stadium, Paul.
Yeah, I think we win this one. I went for a loss earlier on. So again, my logic in division, fighting for a playoff place. I think Kyle Shanahan gets the better of McVay. This one, I think it's going to be a Brock Purdy masterclass in this one. And it'll be like, Miles, who? Go sit down over there, son.
Well, going from LA Rams to LA Chargers in week 15 in LA, Ollie.
I unfortunately think we lose this one. I think at this point in the season, travel will start catching up with us. It's been a long while since we have the bye. Chargers, good team. Obviously, Jim Harbaugh coming back. Well, we're going there, but against Jim Harbaugh, I think we lose this one in a close game, possibly overtime.
Levi South, Ollie, just our beach house, just going to our second home. Come on, buddy.
True.
Week 16 will bring back some painful memories for you two. You are taking on the Chiefs.
I can already hear Brad Simcox in my ear right now. Yes, Brad, I know you always beat us. And at this moment in time, I'm going to try some reverse psychology and say the Niners lose this one. We've never seen us beat Patrick Mahomes. I'd love to kind of book that trend, but I will go with a loss for this one. And if we do win, Brad, I won't say a word to you because you'll come back with those Super Bowl rings. All good humour apart, I think we lose this one, Andy.
Well, next game is the final home game of the regular season. And first of all, shout out Brad Simcox. You will be hearing his voice later on in the off-season with the Chiefs, course. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what they do. But that is for another day. But Ollie, it's the final home game of the regular season as you take on the Philadelphia Eagles at Levi Stadium. For the final time this episode, Ollie, win, lose or tie?
So we went into Lincoln Financial Field and beat them in last season in the playoffs. Surely with a healthier team, which I pray we have, I can't see anything else but us beating them. We have a good record against Philly recently, and I think we extend that.
Okay, so then the final game is on the road to the Arizona Cardinals in Week 18. And for you, Paul, for the final time this episode for you, win, lose or tie?
I think it's a win. I think that Cardinals roster will just have checked out by now. And I think we'll have already qualified for playoffs. I think it's going to be like a meaningless preseason game. I think you're just going to see different players play in. And you kind of feel sorry for the Cardinals because of the division they're in. But yeah, I think the Niners win this one, even though the game hasn't been confirmed yet. As in, it's quite funny looking at the schedule, TBD. But I can't see anything other than the Niners win, Andy, no matter who's playing for the Niners.
Fair enough. Well, that means between the both of you, according to your predictions, you will end the season with a 13-4 record. So the optimism is very high.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's all about staying healthy, isn't it? I think that predictions that I've done is assuming we have a fully healthy team.
That's my exact feelings. That was my kind of my point before was that I do believe that if you can stay healthy, then I do believe that you can go far. But I think it just takes one or two injuries, and I think that could tell your season. But if you were to go 13-4, I'll go to each of you first. That'll be unless there's some insane season, that'll get you in the playoffs. How far do you think you'll go in the postseason? Ollie, over to you first.
I think we lose to the Rams at SoFi Stadium in the NFC Championship game.
That is how I think it might actually go as well. I've said it all off season. I'm sticking to it. I said it even before the trade went down for Garrett. I think the Rams win it all. But I did say I think it will be an NFC West NFC Championship, and I think I do believe it will be Niners Rams. I think the Seahawks also could be within a shout, but it remains to be seen whether they'll feel the effects of losing Kubiak.
I've got a bit of a hot take that I don't think the Seahawks or the Patriots are going to make the playoffs.
Patriots, I'll give you the Patriots. They have quite an easy schedule, but I I do believe with that defense Seahawks have and the players they have on offense, I do believe unless there's some sort of injury bug, I can see him at least making the playoffs. I don't know whether they'll go all the way, but I think I can see him making at least a divisional. But I can see them then losing to the likes of the Rams and maybe even you guys in the divisional round.
I mean, I like you, Andy, but what are you trying to do to me? If the Niners can't win it, I can't have another NFC West team bloody winning another Super Bowl. I mean, the beauty of being a fan, I came on tonight thinking, right, I'm going to be 12-5. I'm going to be logical, but it's July the 23rd. As Ollie said there, I do like doing these win-losses this stage of the season because you look back on it and then as we all create content, we all do the games week by week. But, on paper, February, Kyle Shanahan, Brock Purdy in the playoffs, Andy. We surprised a lot of people with the Eagles. I don't know whether my heart could take your scenario, Ollie. A Rams-Niners NFC Championship game followed by the Rams winning. But I just want, as I said at the top of the show, Andy, I just want one. Just give me one and I'll be happy. But I think if the Niners get into the playoffs, and I think if we're healthy with the roster we've got, I think a lot of teams will fear playing us. Shanahan's got that kind of pedigree. And you've gone Rams, Niners. I'd like to go throwback. I'd like to see the Cowboys Niners in the NFC Championship game for my own personal reasons. I've got a good friend who's a Cowboys fan. I just think that would kind of the Niners' 80th season, and kind of you can just see the TV show production now, can't you? Jerry Rice, Joe Montana, all the guys from the Cowboys. But I'd like to beat them in the NFC Championship game and then get to the big one and win one. But that's what I would like to see anyway, Andy. What about you?
Well, I think it will be a loss in the. I think potentially divisional round if injuries go against you, but I just personally, I don't see the Niners. I can see them again. The thing, if everyone's healthy, you get McCaffrey in a playoff game in NFC Championship game. You get George Kittle firing. You get all these big Bosa, who I love Nick Bosa as a player. Fred Warner. Kyle Shanahan, who's proved it in the regular season and in the playoffs, if you take away the Super Bowl, you never know. But I do think this is the Rams year. I just don't see anyone who's even close to the Rams right now in terms of roster. A team that was already stacked. They went out and got their biggest off-season needs. Then they go and get the best defensive player in the entire league. And they could get the best defensive player.
Has Fred Warner been traded?
Love it. You got me back on that one. And they may even get the best defensive player of this century back as well, out of retirement.
Pat Willis is coming out of retirement.
Andy, all jokes aside, where I live, Gary, the lad across the road's a Rams fan. And when the Rams won the Super Bowl, he did everything that I would do. He bought the hat, he bought the T-shirt, he bought the hoodie. All I will say is if the Niners win a Super Bowl, Ollie, my bank balance will take a serious hit. And anybody who's following me on socials who's not a Niners fan will be hitting that mute button because I will let the world know about it. That's what I said. I just want one. Just give me one, please.
I'll be hitting that retweet button.
Yes. But all jokes aside, I know you said you've got another podcast to go to, Andy. I always say, whenever you put the bat signal up and you ask me to jump on, it's always good. And it's always good to talk to other Niners fans. I haven't had the chance to be on Ollie's show yet, but I have had a lot of fun and I've dusted off the microphone for the first time in ages. And I'll be honest, Andy, when you text yesterday, right, are we still on? I was thinking, Jesus Christ, how fast has that gone from when you text me? And I was like, yeah, we could do July the 23rd. I'll be back off holiday. And then I was like, wow, it's around the corner. So thank you for having me on. I do appreciate it.
I will say something, Paul. My sister was quite excited when I told her I was doing a podcast with you because I know you've messaged her a couple of times over the years.
Yeah, she's a follower on social media, yes. And I think she would be very keen to get to a watch party if she could. So, and I didn't know you were coming on tonight, so it was a bit of a Brucey bonus because I thought Andy was going to have to put up with me and my Purdy puns. So having another Niners fan there who's as optimistic as me has always been a bit of a pleasure.
Well, pleasure as always. And I will say, you say you just won one. I just want a playoff win. Genuinely, I said before in the last show, Eagles fans 2 seasons ago and Seahawks fans last year saw more playoff wins in that season alone than I've seen us have, or the same amount as I've had playoff appearances for the Dolphins. I've only seen us play 3 playoff games in my entire fandom, and they've all been losses. So,
and one of them you had Skylar Thompson starting at quarterback, didn't you?
Yeah, we lost. The first one was the Steelers. That was very early on in my die-hard fandom with the Dolphins. And then yeah, obviously the year after the Chiefs and one of the coldest games in history. But yeah, that Bills game I always think about, even to this day, about what if. But no, Ollie as well, to you, thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
No problem at all. And do check out both these guys' work, both on Paul's podcast, 49 ers Faithful UK, and Ollie's podcast, Third and Long. But in the meantime, this has been the Across the Pod NFL podcast, our 49ers season preview. I have been, as ever, your guest today in Andy Davis, with our guests in 49ers fans, Paul and Ollie Hope. And we'll see you guys next time. Take care.